Chicken was still warm when I threw it in the trash. I'd roasted it myself. Lemon, thyme, crispy skin, even stuffed it with garlic like Mom used to on holidays. Except there wasn't any holiday, just my birthday, and no one came, not even a running. Late text. Just silence so loud I could hear the fridge humming like it was mocking me. I stood there in my button-up shirt, the one I ironed 3 times because I wanted to look decent. Just in case they took pictures and stared at the empty plates I'd set out. 4.1 for me, 1 for Mom, 1 for Emily, my sister, 1 for her boyfriend Greg, who always smelled like Axe and ambition. No RSVP, no excuse, no knock at the door. Nothing. By 7.10, I finally caved and texted her. Hey Mom, did something happen? I watched the 3 dots pop up, then vanish, then come back. Her reply hit harder than I expected. Sorry, Jacob's dinner was already booked. Jacob, my nephew Emily's kid, 8 years old, they booked a dinner for him on my birthday. Didn't even try to hide it. No happy birthday, no we forgot, no apology, just sorry. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream. I just sat down at the table and laughed. One of those dry, exhausted laughs that taste like defeat and burnt rosemary. Here's the part I never told anyone. I wasn't surprised. Not really. Signs had been there. The quiet unsubscribing of attention. The family group chat that stopped buzzing when I entered. The way Mom only called when she needed tech help or a ride. The way Emily looked through me at Thanksgiving like I was the ghost of poor decisions past. Still, I played my part. I brought gifts to Jacob's birthday last year, even when he forgot my name and called me the Wi-Fi guy. I helped Greg install shelves he never thanked me for. Sat through Mom's long rants about the old days, like she didn't rewrite every memory to make herself the hero. But this was different. This was deliberate. And yet, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. Instead, I stood up, grabbed the wine I'd been saving a Spanish red I'd bought for this exact occasion, and poured myself a glass so full it dared me to spill. I drank it in one go, then another, and another. By the time I finished the bottle, kitchen was spinning, and something inside me clicked. I walked to the garage. Now, before you assume anything, no, I didn't grab a rope. Or pills. I grabbed a box, an old one, dusty, labeled Dad stuff. Inside were letters, receipts, photos no one bothered to digitize. There was also a Polaroid of me, age 6, blowing out candles on a cake shaped like a T-Rex. Mom looked young, happy, not like the woman who forgot I existed. I stared at that photo. The question hit me so hard I sobered a little. When did I become disposable? And then the next question was worse. What if I never mattered at all? But something else was tucked behind the photo. An envelope, sealed, addressed to me. No stamp. Just my name and Dad's handwriting. He died 10 years ago. I held it in my hands like it might bite. My birthday, no family. A forgotten dinner. Now a dead man's message. Me. That's not fate knocking with a steel-toe boot. I opened it, and everything started unraveling. The letter wasn't long, scribbled in Dad's unfiltered cursive. The kind he used when he'd had too much bourbon or too much truth to say. If you're reading this, they forgot you. That means it's time. The lockbox key is in the vent behind the workbench. You'll know what to do. I read it twice. It's the first time. I thought it was some weird joke. The second time, knew it wasn't. Let me tell you something about my dad. He wasn't the poetic type. HVAC tech for 35 years. Taught me everything I know. Swore twice for every screw he dropped. But secrets. He had M. He once made Mom believe the IRS seized our boat. Just so. He didn't have to admit he lost it in a poker game. This man hid emotions like landmines, silent, buried, and deadly when stepped on. So when he left me a mystery, the night my own family ghosted me, it didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like legacy. I stumbled to the garage, the wine still sloshing in my veins like bad decisions. The vent behind the workbench hadn't been touched in years. Cobwebs, a mouse skeleton, smelled like regret and rust. I unscrewed the panel with Dad's old socket wrench. And there it was, taped to the inside like a spy movie cliché. A single brass key, no tag, no label. I knew where it went. The green lockbox, bottom shelf of the cabinet behind the paint cans. And a 2008 calendar with Hooters girls holding mufflers. I hadn't touched it since his funeral. Hell, I forgot it even had a lock. I slid the key in. Click. The lid creaked open, and there it was. Something that shouldn't have existed. Cash. A lot of it. Stacks wrapped in faded bank bands. Thousands. Maybe tens. And a photo. Not just any photo. It was my mom holding a baby, but not me. The timestamp on the back said June 1981. I was born in 83. She was smiling in that photo. Big, glowing. The kind of smile I'd never seen directed at me. The man next to her, not my dad. And just like that, the room shrank. My hands went cold. My breath got stuck somewhere between what the hell and oh my God. I flipped the photo over again. Something was written in red marker. Don't tell him. Would ruin everything. Tell who? Dad, me. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Emily. I stared at her name for a long time, then picked up. Her voice was chipper, like nothing had happened. Hey, just wanted to say Jacob's dinner ran late. But Mom says happy birthday. We'll make it up to you this weekend. Promise. I didn't answer, 'cause something inside me cracked open. The woman who forgot me might not even be my mother. And Jacob's dinner, that might have been a distraction. Something much, much bigger. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at the kitchen. Table, that damn photo in one hand, the letter in the other, with the lockbox open like a corpse I couldn't look away from. My mind was tearing itself apart like an old VHS tape, catching in the reel. Who the hell was the baby? Who the hell was the man? It's most terrifying. Who the hell was I? By 3 a.m., I was halfway through the stack of contents inside that box. Beneath. The cash and faded receipts from a gas station in Dayton, dated before I was born. I found a folded envelope marked 4J. If anything ever happens to me, Dad wrote that before he got sick, before the cancer made him a ghost inside his own body. I never knew he'd left anything behind besides his tools and a half-finished basement. Inside that envelope, it's a single sheet of paper. Typed, no signature. If you're reading this, they lied to you. Mother is not who she says she is. I found out. Too late, I stayed for you. I kept quiet for you. But now, it's your turn to decide what the truth is worth. Go see Robert. He'll tell you everything. Robert. The name rang in my ears like a fire alarm. But I didn't know a Robert. Not in the family. Not in Dad's stories. Not in my version of reality. If I knew one place where names didn't lie. The phone book. In Dad's. Old contacts. When he insisted on keeping one written by hand in a ratty black leather notebook labeled people I kinda trust. I found it buried under piles of motor oil receipts in the garage drawer that still smelled like Marlboros and WD-40. There he was. Robert Kelly, 1979. Pontiac, TRANSM, Guy Fairborn. Fairborn was 40 minutes away. I was in my truck before the sun even showed its face. The road was fogged over, Ohio style, thick, gray, heavy. Like the state itself was trying to keep me from getting there. I didn't call ahead. I didn't even know if he was alive. I just drove like something in my gut already knew. The fuse had been lit and I had to find the bomb before it went off. I pulled up to a one-story ranch house with peeling paint and a lawn gnome flipping the bird. I knew I was in the right place. I knocked. Nothing. Knocked again. Still nothing. Was about to walk away when the door creaked open and a man stepped out, white beard, white tank top, eyes like someone who'd seen too many secrets. You, Todd's boy, said, voice dry like bark peeling off a dead tree. I nodded, stared at me for a long moment, then sighed. Come on in. Been wondering when this day'd come. Inside smelled like pipe tobacco and canned beans. The living room was cluttered with car magazines, ashtrays, a framed picture of the exact same baby I saw in the photo from the lockbox. Same woman, same man. Robert poured us both a glass of something amber and strong before he sat down, hands shaking just a little. He didn't offer a toast. He just said, "You're not going to like this." I leaned in. He looked me dead in the eye. "Your dad wasn't your biological father, but he was your real father. Don't get that twisted." I froze. "What do you mean?" He pointed to the picture. "Baby, that's your brother." I blinked, my what, and the woman. "That was my sister, your real mom." I couldn't breathe. Robert downed his drink in one go and wiped his mouth. "She gave birth to twins. One died, or that's what she was told." He pulled a torn envelope from his pocket. Inside it, a birth certificate. Mine, but not under my name, under a different one. A name I'd never seen, and under Mother Margaret Kelly. My hands started shaking. Had no idea who I was, and the family who forgot my birthday. They weren't just forgetful. They were hiding me. I didn't drive home. I just sat there in Robert Kelly's living room while the walls closed in around me like a casket lined with cigarette. Smoke and betrayal. Margaret Kelly, not Deborah Sinclair. The woman who raised me with chore charts and frozen lasagna. The woman who forgot my birthday because Jacob's dinner was already booked. My real mother was someone I'd never met. Someone who, according to Robert, died 23 years ago in what he called a situation no one wanted to explain. And now, I was holding a birth certificate that said I had a different last name, a different identity, a different mother. I wasn't just a forgotten son, I was a smuggled secret. "You said she had twins?" I asked, my throat dry. Robert nodded and lit a cigarette with hands that clearly hadn't stopped shaking since 1987. Back then, no one talked about postpartum. Your mom was in bad shape. She wasn't married. Religious family. Real tight-lipped Irish Catholic shame. You know the type. When the second baby you came out blue and not breathing, they told her you died. I felt my stomach flip. They told her I died. "Yeah," he said, "except you didn't." Looked down at my hands like maybe they'd tell me who I was. They didn't. Just the same cracked knuckles and scar on my pinky from trying to fix a garbage disposal in 7th grade. "Why the hell would anyone take me?" I asked. "Why would she give me up?" Robert didn't answer right away. He got up, opened a drawer, and pulled out a manila envelope so yellowed it looked like it had been aging right next to guilt. Inside, a letter. Handwritten, not by Dad. This one was signed by Deborah Sinclair. "To whoever finds this, I did what I had to. I was young, was grieving." And Todd. He couldn't stand the idea of losing another child after our first miscarriage. So when the nurse said there was a baby no one claimed, he made the call. I didn't ask questions. I just held you and prayed you wouldn't remember someone. Elsa's name? I read it twice. My vision went red dot. They stole me. Not out of cruelty. Out of desperation of some twisted grief-drunk logic that I could be the cure to their own broken hearts. My entire life was a cover-up. The birthdays they forgot. The way Mom would flinch when I asked about baby pictures before age 2. Way Dad would call me his miracle, especially when he was half in the bag. It all made sense now. I was a replacement, a living apology. They dressed up in school uniforms and raised in a house of silence. I stood up so fast the bottle on the table rattled. "I need air." Robert just nodded like he knew this part of the movie too. I stumbled outside into the yard where a gnome still flipped me off, and I laughed. This weird, cracked laugh like my lungs had never made the sound before. Then my phone buzzed. Again. "Emily, hey, where are you?" "Mom's feeling guilty. We want to do cake tonight." "Okay." "Jacob's making you a card." Bleeding red, I stared at the screen like it was poison.cake. Now they remembered. Now that the dirty work was done, I didn't respond. Instead, I clicked the photo. App opened the one of the old birthday me at 6. blowing out candles. I zoomed in on Mom's face, the way she looked at me. And I saw it now. That wasn't love. It was relief. I didn't drive home. I didn't even turn the key. Just sat in that beat-up Silverado while my phone buzzed like a dying wasp in the cup holder. 10 missed calls. 4 from Emily, 1 from Mom. The rest were just group chat pings titled Fam3, a name that now felt like satire. I stared at the road. I could have gone left back to my house with its cold microwave dinners and hollow birthdays, but I didn't. I went right. And pulled into the Sinclair house, my old house. By 7:42 p.m., porch light was on. So was the porch camera. I stared right into it as I rang the doorbell. Let them see my face. Let them read what was written all over it. I know. Emily answered the door with a cupcake in her hand and frosting on her cheek like she'd just walked off a Gotham Pinterest board. Jake, thank God. Mom's been. Is she inside? I cut her off. Emily blinked, yeah. But wait, are you okay? I pushed past her, walked straight into the living room like I'd done 1,000 times as a kid, when I still thought birthdays were real and parents told the truth. Mom was on the couch, wrapped in that hideous green knit blanket she never washed, like she thought it would make her look more fragile. She looked up and her eyes widened, like she'd seen a ghost. I guess in a way she had. Jacob, she said, voice cracking. I went to Robert Kelly's, I said, pulling the birth certificate from my pocket and dropping it onto the coffee table like a grenade. And I read Dad's letter, the real one. Her face drained of color like someone had pulled the plug. I want the truth. Now. Emily stood frozen in the doorway, the cupcake sagging sideways in her hand. Jake, what is this? But I didn't take my eyes off Mom. I needed to see the moment the lies peeled off. Her like wet paint, she swallowed once, twice. Didn't want it to happen like this. Yeah, I snapped. How did you want it to happen? Me at 50? Finding out the people? Who forgot my birthday weren't even supposed to have me? She flinched. It wasn't like that, she whispered. Then tell me how it was. I growled, voice shaking, because from where I'm standing, looks like you and Dad stole me out of a hospital crib like I was a clearance item. I was 23, she said, but already lost one baby. Your father was broken. He couldn't bury another. When the nurse mentioned a child with no parents, it felt like a sign. A sign, I said? You thought I was a fortune cookie from God. Emily finally stepped forward. Wait, Mom, what is he talking about? Tell her, I said. Tell her everything, or I will. Mom buried her face in her hands. Her voice was a whisper. You were never supposed to find out. Well, I did. I said quieter now, but sharper. And you know what the worst part is? That you lied. Not that you raised me on secondhand love. It's that on the one day that might have meant something, you didn't show up. Silence, thick, suffocating. Emily looked like she'd been hit by a semi. You're not my brother? She asked, voice thin. I looked at her. The woman who once shoved me off the trampoline and blamed the dog. I don't know what I am, I said. But I know what I'm not. I'm not your afterthought. I'm not your guilt project. I'm done pretending I don't notice when the room goes quiet when I enter. Mom tried to reach for me. Jacob, please, you're my son. No, I said, stepping back. I was your cover story, your stitched-up version of a second chance. And then I said it. The words that felt like they'd been waiting 39 years to be born. I forgive you, but I'm not staying. She sobbed. Emily called my name, but I walked out, past the cupcakes, past the birthday card with my name spelled wrong, past the porch where they used to leave the light on for me. It flickered as I shut the door. Good, let it burn out. The air outside hit like a slap cold, unapologetic. I didn't cry. Not even when the door clicked shut behind me. Not even when I saw Emily through the living room window, still holding that damn cupcake like it might reverse time if she just stood still long enough. I just got in the truck, gripped the wheel, stared at the ignition like it owed me answers. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, not from grief. From clarity. For the first time in my life, I didn't owe anyone in that house a single thing. But that didn't mean I had peace. 'Cause now I had questions. And one name burned at the top of the list. Margaret Kelly. My biological mother. Dead. Buried. Wrapped in whispers and whatever passed for eulogy. When someone dies in secret, Hubbard had said she passed under strange circumstances. So I did what any bastardized, birthday, forgotten, almost orphan would do at 10:30 p.m. on a Monday. I drove to the one place no one ever visits on purpose. The records building, it was closed, of course. But I knew a guy, Kyle from high school. Used to be a burnout who ran LAN parties out of his dad's basement. Now, government records clerk with a skeleton key and no questions policy, so long as you brought him a Five Guys milkshake. 20 minutes later. He met me out back with a vanilla shake and bloodshot eyes. This is either about taxes or trauma, he said, pulling out a ring of keys. Little of column A, whole lot of column PTSD, I muttered. Inside the building smelled like toner and disillusionment. Kyle led me to a terminal, punched in his login, and scooted aside. Search away. Don't print anything unless you want to trigger the red flag server. I typed fast. Margaret Kelly. Death, 2002. Date in general. Cause, suicide. I stopped. Opened the file. And the hairs on my arms stood up because the autopsy didn't match the obituary. Not even close. The report said she'd been found with blunt force trauma to the side of her head. Ruled a suicide by blunt object. Who the hell kills themselves with? A blunt object to the temple. I looked closer. Toxicology clean, no substances. No prior mental health diagnosis. No suicide note. But one phrase caught my eye, scribbled in a coroner's note in the margin. Unusual contusion shape. Possible struggle. Nurse. Reported seeing visitor with badge same night. No hospital record of that visitor. A visitor. With a badge. No record, no name, no follow-up. And just like that quiet heartbreak of my forgotten birthday lit a fuse under something much darker. I wasn't just born into the wrong family. I was born into a cover-up. And the people who forgot me, they might have forgotten why. I drove home with one eye on the road and the other staring into the rear view, half expecting headlights that shouldn't be there. Not paranoia, instinct. Because once you find out your death was forged, your birth certificate is a forged lie. Your mother's suicide was a blunt force mystery wrapped in silence. Well, let's just say cake and candles don't hit the same anymore. My phone buzzed again. Emily, then Mom, then Emily again. Blocked them both. They'd had decades to speak. I was done giving them minutes. When I got back to my place, I didn't. Go inside. I stood on the lawn under the busted porch light I never fixed and lit a cigarette. Even though I quit years ago, it burned fast. The old me was begging to disappear. I was halfway through the second when I heard a car pull up slow. Unmarked sedan. Dark, government tinted, no headlights. I dropped the cigarette and didn't move. The passenger window rolled down like a horror. Movie cue. Jacob Sinclair, a voice asked. Calm, professional, like he was offering to sell me a vacuum, not unearth my entire existence. Used to be, I said. The man leaned slightly forward. Clean shave. Gray suit. Government jawline. I think it's time we had a talk. It's about your mother. Both of them. I took a step back, and you are. He pulled out a badge, not a police one. Not FBI, something older. Black leather, gold crest. Letters burned into it that didn't match any agency I knew. But one word caught my eye. Department of Origins. What the hell is that? AITA? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Think of us as people who keep the paperwork neat when the world gets messy. He nodded to the back seat. Get in, Jacob. There's something you need to see, and it's not the kind of truth we can send in a text. I hesitated. Then I saw what was on. The seat beside him, a photo of Margaret Kelly, pregnant, hooked to machines. With me in the background, an infant in a glass NICU box, and standing behind the glass, my father, Todd Sinclair, wearing a visitor badge, had 2 weeks before my adoption, and in his hand, a key, the same brass one I found in the vent. I got in the car, because the truth wasn't going to wait. And apparently, neither were they. The car smelled like old leather, static, and something sterile. Like truth boiled down to antiseptic. We drove in silence. No small talk, just the hum of tires on wet asphalt. And the man in the front seat flipping pages in a folder like he was skimming through my soul. Took me to a building that didn't exist on maps. Brick exterior, windowless, tucked between a shuttered DMV and an abandoned mattress store. Inside, it was all metal corridors and flickering fluorescents. Like the ghost of a hospital mated with a Cold War archive. We stopped at a door marked Archive C Infant Intakes, 1980 to 1985. The agent, he, finally gave a name, Collins, typed in a code. The door hissed open, and there, under dull yellow lights, was a wall of cabinets, files stacked like gravestones. Collins handed me a thick envelope, heavier than it should have been. Inside, photos, medical logs, transcripts, and a tape. A VHS tape. Margaret Kelly was part of a maternity study, he said. One she never consented to. The department contracted certain hospitals to observe maternal behavior under controlled emotional duress. My stomach dropped. They told her baby died. Whispered. He nodded. It was part of the protocol. Isolate the mother. Remove the infant. Monitor long-term trauma impact. Jesus Christ. He continued like he'd said it 100 times before. Most of the subjects were unwed, lower income, women the system could forget. Margaret wasn't supposed to be flagged. But someone in the department pushed her through anyway. Your file was sealed until your father's death triggered a cross-reference flag. I opened the transcript. Only it wasn't Jacob Sinclair, it was infant subject 39BK. The B stood for backup. I was the twin they weren't supposed to keep. She wasn't mentally ill, I said, reading the notes. She was grieving something she never knew she lost. And when she started digging, Collins said softly, she was silenced. Blunt force trauma. Misreported. We didn't do it, but someone who wanted the program buried did. Hands shook as I pulled out the last page in the folder. A list of other infants, other codes, other names. One of them, 39BK, had a red stamp across it. Moved to private care Sinclair. Todd, he didn't just find me. He took me. Why him? I asked. Collins stared at the cabinet for a long time because he used to work for us. I blinked. What? He was part of the department until 81, specialized in domestic logistics and identity washes. His wife miscarried. Accessed restricted files. You were his penance, his second chance. I sat down. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. My life, every part of it was the debris of some bureaucratic nightmare. A sympathy adoption engineered by a man who wanted redemption, and a woman too broken to ask where I really came from. And now I asked. Collins stood, straightened his tie. Now, most don't. We prefer it that way. He handed me the VHS tape. Happy birthday, Jacob, or whatever name you choose now. He left me in that room alone. Later that night, I didn't go home. I went to the only place that had ever shown up for me year after year. Without fail, Dino's Bar and Grill, open 365 days, a year, where the bartender Joe slid a whiskey down the bar and said, "Happy birthday, man. Same as always." Same as always, I said. I raised my glass to the only ones who never forgot me. Joe, the Thursday night drunks, the jukebox, and the empty bar stool. Beside me because they never lied. They never hid. They never tried to rewrite me. And as Sinatra crooned something melancholy overhead, I toasted the ghosts of the life I thought I had. Then I drank to the stranger I was about to become. And I never looked back.